been driving since I was 16. I haven't had a ticket yet.
That's not wood.
Not
yeah, but hitting shit and running doesn't count, buddy.
Not at that price.
Same thing down there. Exact same mountains. So they have the same arrow.
We like to go up there and drink on the red water.
I don't know what the hell else happened. Yeah? What did it have on that?
Like they were hopping, yeah.
I can barely do stairs.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I walked in my door. Damn. Didn't know anything until the next morning.
It's so size and
It's a little tame.
and we laid out there. You got roofied there.
And they were like, well, did they mean you? I'm like, I don't know, I was with 3 girls. So
Yeah.
They probably meant for the girls, but I got it.
Well, the odds are I wanted to do it.
I can't.
I mean, it's not that it couldn't happen. For the 3 girls were probably more than likely.
My hand's always dirty. I guess, because I always smell like
You try here you go, honey.
He was hungover, leave him alone.
Oh, I know.
This is Oast House Porter. Gave it a 3.5 out of 5. Really, really nice, decent stuff. Tastes like a nut brown ale almost. You could go either way with it. Really, really good stuff. This might be the shortest review I've ever done. Alright, welcome to another Hoagly Beer Review. We're still here at Oast House, and this is their smoked Irish stout. I guess it's what, 4%? Is it not, Rhino? I just had a white flash right in my camera. So we'll look right at it. She's dark, mahogany. Nice hidden lacing even for a little sample glass. Sorry, it's the aroma. It is smoky, but it's a nice little subtle smokiness, like a light Scotch ale or something like that. So we'll go right to the taste. Oh, very nice. The little bit of smokiness that comes out in the nose, a lot more in the actual taste. In fact, it's like the biggest thing there. I guess it's apple wood that they used to smoke this with. Very good. You can definitely tell it's a stout. It's got nice roasty malt character as well with the smoke. About a medium body to it. Very, very good. I gotta stop myself here. I was using the Rhino scale for most of the reviews, but I'll use mine for this review. I'd go as high as a 4.25 out of 5. Really, really good. Really drinkable. Light ABV, so you could have a lot of them, especially if you enjoy the smokiness. Really good stuff. Really, really good stuff. Alright guys, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
He's Frenchie's over
The ciders, too.
Yeah, so this one's our bottle condition. Saison, one of our farmhouse ales that we do here. We'll probably talk about it more once we get back into the
When you get it about 2 or 3 years old, it was even
I had good intentions to try and keep some around yet. I have yet to make it up to a year.
Yeah. We've had a couple of these placers that have been long that are 3, 4 years old, and they were great to start with one, and 2 months later, a couple of them were
Very dry.
I don't have much left over on the other side.
That's good. That's very dry.
We have our main, or Saison yeast that we do the main fermentation with, and then we add a different strain of olive. These guys back there.
Everybody's take pictures. Everybody's got the camera. Everybody's taking a picture of the beer. Yeah.
I think it's great.
Jesse would hate it.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, so for those that don't know, Oast House, we started up in the fall of 2012 now. So we're just over a year and a bit old. So started by some local guys from Niagara Falls and Niagara-on-the-Lake. Kevin Somerville is our brewmaster here. He's a Niagara Falls local. Most of them got their start in the wine industry. Kevin wanted to branch over to the beer industry, which he did eventually. But that knowledge that he got in the wine industry helped him transition over. So it's a little bit about the owners of the brewmaster here, but those that are wondering what an Oast House is, anyone familiar with that term at all? So an Oast House was a building that you would find in Kent, England, in the hop growing region. It is a building that they would dry the hops in after harvest. So Oast is actually a term that means kiln. So in the Oast House you would find a room with 2 floors. Underneath would be their source of heat, which is usually a fire back in the day. They would also burn sulfur that helped protect the hops, and the heat would rise and dry the hops out after harvest, which helped protect them. Hops are very delicate plants. Once they are picked, they deteriorate very rapidly. So once they're dried and pelletized, as we do nowadays, they keep for a much longer time. So I've already talked about hops a bit, but obviously the 4 main ingredients of beer are hops, barley, yeast, and water. Water is considered an ingredient because most beers makes up 95% of the beer. As well, water sources vary quite drastically around the world, and that is one reason why we get our different styles from different regions. So with the Pilsner from Pilsen, then you have your heavier stouts and ales from the UK. A lot of those reflect the type of water they have there. Yeast varies quite a bit. Can have a huge impact on the outcome of your beer. You could ferment the same wort with 2 different yeasts and get a completely different beer. And as we know, they range from the classic ale strains and the lager strains. Ale strains ferment at a higher temperature, usually around 20 degrees C, whereas the lagers ferment from 10 to 14 degrees C. The lager yeasts will provide a crisper, cleaner beer without any of those fruitier characteristics that you find in ales. And you would notice some of the fruitier characteristics in the Saison for sure. That one actually has a particularly high fermentation at around 28 degrees C. So currently here we operate 2 yeast strains, our house ale yeast that we do the barn raiser with, and then our Belgian strain that we do our farmhouse ales. And then barley. Barley is the main grain that we use in beer. It can range, well, it's not the only one, it's the one that is the most useful to the brewers. Mainly because of its protein sugar content, the husk, as well as the enzymes that are present inside. So at harvest time, when they go out in the field and harvest the barley, in order to make it usable for the brewer, they have to go to the malt house to malt it. And the malting process, basically, they take the grain and they steep it like you're about to start growing it. This causes the embryo inside to start sprouting, which helps break down some of the proteins and the starches into sugars. They don't want to let it go too long though, so they'll kiln it. This dries up the kernel as well as kills that growth and makes it usable in the brew house. So for most beers, we have what we call base malt. It makes up about probably 80 to 90% of a normal malt bill when you're making a beer. It's a pretty light colored malt, just kilned, just dried out. And then we also get into the crystals, which are range from your amber colors to your dark, almost black chocolates. And there's a whole gambit in between there. So with those, we can make any colored beer we want and different flavors, characteristics. Here we operate our two-vessel system from Pacific Mechanical out in Victoria, BC. Tucked back in there, it's kind of hidden today, but is our mill. So that's where the process would start. So basically the mill, we want to crack open that barley grain. We don't want to destroy the husk because we need to use that later on in the process, but we want to make sure that the starch is exposed on the inside. That will be our main sugar source. So after we use the mill, it travels along the pipe there by the auger and into our mash/lauter tun right here. So when I'm mashing in, I'm bringing in the warm water, which is generally, depending on the beer I'm making, between 60 and 70 degrees C. This is the ideal temperature to activate enzymes inside the malt. And those enzymes will attack the starch chains and cleave them down into maltose, which is a disaccharide of 2 glucose molecules. So the mash takes about an hour. And I'll check it with an iodine, which shows me that all that starch is converted to sugar for the yeast to use. Now that my mash is complete, I need to recirculate it, and I'm going to use those husks that were part of the barley kernel as its own filter bed. This helps clarify the wort, because at the beginning it'll be very cloudy. It helps bring some of those proteins and they come rest on top of the mash bed, because I don't really want those in my finished beer. And then it helps loosen up any sugars that are in there for later on when I'm going to be transferring over. So once that recirculation is complete and I'm at about the sugar content I want and the clarity, I start transferring over to the kettle. And then at that time I start bringing in fresh, warm hot water at around 77 degrees C. This will provide to help rinse out those sugars and get my volume over in the kettle. So once I get down to, I'm constantly monitoring the sugar content as I'm transferring over, because if I get down to a low enough level, I need to stop it, because at that point you start transferring more tannins and things you wouldn't want that would affect the flavor of the beer. There's not much sugar left anyway, so it's not really worth it. So at that point I start draining the mash tun out, and I'll take all those grains out, and we give our grains to a local cattle farmer, as well as Ravine Vineyard takes them for their pigs that they raise during the summers. So now I have my volume in the kettle. I check it again for the sugar content, because right now it's probably higher than I want it to be. So I actually dilute it with straight hot water until I get it to where I want. Generally, like for Barn Raiser, it's about 12% sugar, and then for like Saison, it's about 14%. And then I'm going to undergo the boil. So boiling has a few different functions. Generally it takes about an hour. One thing I want to make sure I'm doing is sterilizing the wort, which the boil will do. The hop acids and oils themselves aren't soluble in water until they undergo a boiling action. This changes the molecule itself, makes it soluble in the liquid, and adds the bitterness to the beer. Boiling also drives off unwanted flavor compounds like DMS and a few others. And of course I'm adding the hops at this point. So depending on when I'm at the hops, if I add them at the beginning, they add to bitterness. Later on, they're going to add to flavor and aroma. Now, the reason we split it up like that is because hop compounds, flavors, and aromas are very volatile, so they will get boiled off of the stack. So within the last 10 minutes, I'll be adding a whole bunch of hops to make sure that it's not enough time for them to be driven off, and it's not enough time for them to really convert to add to the bitterness of the beer. So once I've boiled, I need to take that 100-degree wort and cool it down to 20 for the yeast. We have our heat exchanger tucked in on the wall here. It's designed to what we call a two-stage heat exchanger, so I can use city water as well as a glycol second stage if I needed a little help. Currently we just use it with the water, which is enough right now to get down to 20 degrees C. It's nice this time of year because it's coming in at about 5 to 8 degrees, whereas in the summertime it'll probably be coming in at 18, so it'll increase my cooling a little bit. But all that water is reclaimed back into the hot liquor tank for use in our next brew, cleaning whatever we need it to be. So, you know, it's nice that way. And then after cooling in, we'll be filling one of these 4 or 5 here. So originally we opened up with these 4 20-barrel fermenters. We added the double, which is 40 barrels, spring of last year. We actually have a clone coming of that one. It's going to fill up this space here in about 3 weeks. Adding some more capacity. So these are called the unit tanks. You can do your primary fermentation and maturation in one tank. They're designed so after fermentation is complete, you can harvest that yeast out of the cone at the bottom and reuse it in the next year. Fermentation, basically the yeast is taking those sugar molecules and converting them into an alcohol molecule and to carbon dioxide molecule. So that's the main result of that metabolism that they do. For our ale yeast, it takes about 4 to 5 days to do fermentation. Our saison yeast, even though it ferments higher at 28, it takes a little bit longer. It's a slower yeast that way. So farmhouse ales generally take about 10 to 12 days to ferment out. So this is where kind of the process will split for our beers that we do. Barn Raiser, the Barn Raiser is our dry hops pale ale style. So after this fermentation is complete, I take out the yeast, and then I will add fresh pellet hops to the tank. This helps add back that flavor and aroma that might have been driven off in the boil. It does not add any bitterness at this point. But because there's alcohol in there, those those acids and oils are soluble now. After the dry hopping is completed, it's to about the flavor profile we want. We'll crash it down to 2 degrees. This helps the hops and the yeast kind of fall out of solution, which makes my filter day a lot nicer for me. And then if we get into the farmhouse ales, after their primary fermentation is done, we age them for about a week to 2 weeks, and then we do the bottle conditioning. They're mostly unfiltered, so we'll move them over into the bright tank, which is back here behind you guys. So you'll notice this tank is our only one that actually has some graduation marks on it and stuff. Because the government taxes you on this.
Oh yeah, that's where they get their money.
Yeah.
That's right. That's where they get their money.
Yeah, that's where they get their money from. So if it's a barn raiser, which I just filtered today, this is our carbonation stone. So I'm just started carbonating what you guys got here. So this is what's called forced carbonation. Just shoving a bunch of CO2 in there. When it comes to keg it or bottle it, I'll check the level and just make sure it's where I want it and top it up if need be. If it's one of our farmhouse ales, I prepare a sugar solution of dextrose, which is corn sugar. It's 100% fermentable, so it won't leave any flavor once it's fermented out. We also add a little bit more yeast, a little bit of fresh yeast, just to help it ferment in the bottle. It's kind of a hostile environment for most yeast. Once you get into that higher alcohol, not much sugar food for them around, so we put it in there. Bottle it in our fancy 4-head bottle filler here. All by hand.
Wow.
Currently.
That's a fun day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. One little bit for retail, a little bit for the bottler. Seems to be consensus at a lot of small breweries.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody's like, yeah, I'll work Thursday. We're bottling. Yeah, we'll work Thursday.
As much as, it's every brewer's, I don't know. It's one of those things you have to do, but you get it done.
Make sure it's consistent all the way through.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the final stop for our barn raiser or any of our forced carbonated beers. But if it's our farmhouse ales, once they're bottled, they're put into our warm room, which you can't really see, but it's this garage door back here. We keep that room at 27 degrees C, and they usually are in there for about 4 weeks or so, before we're at about where we like it for carbonation. And one of those things you tested along the way, which is always nice. Oh, and then something else we've got really excited about here. If you guys want to come back over. As you notice, we have some barrels. Some barrels in here. Last winter we did a Russian Imperial Stout release that we barrel aged. Currently we have some Bière de Garde going in a few of them as well. And then in our open top fermenter here, last fall we did a sour beer. So we did a turbid mash, which is basically an unconverted mash. So I was talking about those starches and sugars earlier. You do a really short mash, you leave a lot of those starches in there because those starches are going to be a food source for the bacteria and wild yeast that are present in there. So we roll that outside every day in the fall, which was about grape harvest time. So there should have been a lot of organisms floating around in the grape yeast and whatever else was out there, so fruit. It will eventually go into a neutral barrel. We don't want any oak character imparted on it, but we do want whatever is sort of in the barrel to help it undergo a second fermentation and age it. It'll probably stay in the barrel for a couple years at that point. And then this fall we'll have to do another one, and you kind of have to, and then you sort of blend them after a few years. So it'll be something that would be fun to see in a little bit. Yeah, any questions?
It is delicious. It'll be like the Crown Royal of beer by the time they're done blending it.
Yeah, we're excited about it.
So the last question is when we finish drooling here.
Yeah. Alright, see if a few of you are ready for a refill. Head back up there.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much. This is awesome.
Around here, same with on this wall as well. It's nice been trying to keep some of that character back here, but you can't with the environment back here.
Yeah, there's something about absorbing wood on the wall.
Yeah.
That makes for a moist environment. It's like laminate flooring in a fish tank room. beautiful laminate flooring that goes like this.
Right.
Probably 3,000 gallons of water.